Today's matchup. Dark. DRG. Astrea. ByuN. Round of 16. Group C.
Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
Welcome back, everybody. Astrea versus DRG is coming up. The loser is out. The winner faces ByuN.
Yeah, it's on the line right now for both these players. Astrea looked a little bit shaky in PVT, but I think that's his weakest matchup right now by far in terms of the games that I've seen from him. In PvZ, Astrea looks to be a lot more potent. He has some really creative builds. I would not be surprised in this best of 3 to see him go Nexus first once, for instance. And he's got quite the range in this matchup, but DRG is a tough opponent. He's very good at hanging on in difficult situations.
Well, let's also not forget that Astrea really got rocked in his series. I mean, that could not have been a shorter match. I felt like I was barely warmed up to the entire matchup PVT before it ended so quickly. So hopefully he's in an okay headspace. I did mention before, Astrea always seems to be pretty relaxed. You know, takes his blows on the chin. But, you know, this is a tough one now. Both DRG and ByuN are looking very strong today. And if Astrea is going to survive to that round of 8 after playing in so many GSLs before, he's going to have to bring the best GSL games, I think, of his entire career here tonight.
Would love to see him start that comeback now. Game 1, hard led, Astrea versus DRG. Getting ready to be loaded up. One of these gamers is going to be eliminated from this group. One will go on to fight against ByuN.
Macherino Esports, Astrea. Club NV, DRG.
Okay, so an immediate probe scout here to deny the drone from planting the hatchery there.
Yeah, perfectly timed too. 46 seconds is usually around the time that Zerg's going to be trying to throw down that hatchery, the natural expansion, so Astrea gets there a couple of seconds before that. We got Hot 6 on cam.
It was well done there by the camera people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hold on, this is good for branding.
Forget about what that probe's doing.
What is that?
Was it like I actually looked at you for a moment, so I don't know what was on the
It definitely wasn't
sign.
a drawing to me. It was close. I mean, I could kind of see artistically where they were going with it, but it looked like it was a melting Mario turtle.
What?
You know,
I want to go back in Rabada
yeah.
and see this now.
Yeah.
I missed it. So when I glanced at it, it looked like it might be a Carbot Ling, but I'm confused, completely off base. I only had a fraction of a second.
Maybe a melting mutant Carbot one.
Maybe.
Still, though, the sign game this season, very much on point, guys.
Yeah, 21 Cybercore coming in for Astrea.
So we saw, you know, the last season that Astrea was playing, and he did a pretty good job of playing some pretty dramatic late-game PvZ. Are we going to see that this time around?
He's good at PvZ. I actually like this build that he's going for too. Most Protoss players will go for that 20 assimilator and then, or 20 cybernetic score and then a 21 assimilator, and your gas income is a bit delayed, but Astrea going for the 21 core and then 21 gas gets to kick up that gas income just a little bit faster. And these kind of small things, these minor details make a really big difference in a matchup like PvZ, where, you know, Stargate timing, if you're able to shave off a couple of seconds and get that down faster, as we see Astrea does right here, can pay dividends in terms of getting the drone count under control, because oftentimes in PvZ the game can be won or lost with the early game Stargate harassment. If the Oracles do a massive amount of damage, it can be very difficult for a Zerg, even of Dongray Goose caliber, to come back from that game. Whereas also if the Oracle harassment completely flounders, if Astrea throws 1 or 2 Oracles away, then suddenly he has no scouting, no presence on the map, and it's difficult for him to play the game. So really optimizing as best he can to try to set up for that mid-game harassment.
So he sends the Adept Shade over here. This is going to draw the Queen back. He's not going to be able to get that much done with this, but he's at least keeping DRG a bit honest over here.
Yeah, checking on the drone count too.
Yeah, the Oracle is being cranked out now. And it's been a little bit of a slow start. I mean, it usually is if the Zerg is playing standard and the Protoss is basically rushing into an Oracle. We'll see if it gets any extra damage.
Zergling speed finishing up just now, so that Adept is going to shade back home. Astrea will need that to try and anchor the third base should he decide to go for a rapid expansion. Second Oracle underway.
You basically have that Adept wedged in between a pylon and the Nexus usually.
Yeah, or the mineral lines depending on the base layout.
Sure, yeah, or yeah, between the gas and the mineral even. And just try to control it as best he can. Now, this is a really good interception here by DRG. And look, he gets 2 probes, but it's almost fatal damage there on the Oracle, which means it's hard to ever dive in again like that. Shields are the saving grace of Protoss, but when you overextend past shields, well, then you're just going to eat a lot of damage.
Yeah, so probably the role of that opening Oracle now for Astrea is going to be to hang out back at home. It should be defending any attacks that come into third base. It will be using Stasis Ward to try and stay off any attacks, whereas the second Oracle, the full HP Oracle, should Astrea decide to go in for more harassment like Stasis Wards or trying to pick off a couple of drones at an extractor or go for a scout, will probably be that one, but hey, let's see. This is a GSL match. I know Astrea is hungry for his first map win in a Codas game, so looks like he's willing to play a little bit more risky and use that low HP Oracle to try and get some presence on the map.
And so, Glaives are going to be chrono boosted out here. We've got a couple more gateways coming down. Nothing too dramatic from the Protoss just yet. Just a little bit of control play. We'll see if he can't maybe gun down some more creep tumors somewhere else. He is banking a lot more Adepts, though, in the back. And so, what looks like a pretty modest set of movements here from Protoss could throw the Zerg off when the action actually picks up here. We're a little bit over halfway done on that Glaives upgrade. And if DRG cuts too many corners, he could really pay for it.
Yeah, I like using the Oracle Revelation here to just try and get as much damage done on the creep spread as possible. Just trying to force those queens out into using a little bit more energy, and should he commit heavily to this Adept attack, that might be 1 or 2 less transfuses that these queens have available once everything gets going. But this is not going to be an all-in. There is the third base behind it. The Glaives attack has begun. A Robo facility is on the way back at home, but let's see what these Glaives Adepts are able to get done.
Yeah, there's no Warp Prism here with this. So, like, he's not able to reinforce his position. He's already killed off 2 queens. He's beginning to shade away, although it does seem like DRG's got a lot of damage he can dish out onto these Adepts. A couple do manage to escape, and Oracle falls, and I don't know. I mean, I think I would give away some queens.
Yeah.
And some units to just, do what DRG did. You can always remake the queens, right?
I think it's because these builds just did not quite line up for Astrea.
Yeah.
DRG, he cut drones at 50. He's been building Roaches and Ravagers and Lings. And now he has Speed Overlords coming across the map with a Queen drop. So this is going to be a very deadly push, especially losing that earlier Oracle means that the counterattack potential in the air here for Astrea.
He kills the Overlord.
All
Nothing gets out. This is huge.
Recalling.
But at the same time, there's so much damage, and he recalls right over here to this battery.
Biles coming in on that battery. Luckily, the one all the way in the back is overcharged. Cannon completing as well. And even though he did snipe the Overlord, this is going to be a tough hold.
And, I mean, I think this might have actually been game had the Overlord been able to drop the 4 queens, but it might still be game regardless. I mean, these Stalkers don't really have anywhere to run.
This Oracle a little bit low on HP on energy right now. Cannot focus down these last couple of Ravagers. They are quartering the Stalkers here on the top side. Last pylon at the third base is in a very precarious position. It will get Bile down. Astrea is going to forfeit this expansion for now, retreating back to the natural. But he's fully walled it, so that Immortal actually cannot join the fray.
Yeah, the Nexus goes down, but I think this is just the beginning. I think he can actually carry this all the way over here to the entrance. There is an Immortal behind this, but the Stalkers, are they going to stay out here? They're going to have to blink back. And keep in mind, the Cybernetics core is right here. He could just as easily, oh my God, the Immortal is going to go down. What? That's not the way it's supposed to go. Astrea's having a very bad GSL here today.
Yeah, this is just not going his way. I mean, the Glaives opening.
Not even canceled.
Not even canceled. The Glaive's opening was just so flat-footed because of the opening that DRG was going for. He had many more Roaches and Lings than Astrea was anticipating, and now Astrea is going to try and retake this third expansion, but DRG, although he has a bad rally, he's already managed to close the distance on workers. He cut at 50 for a very long time to make that attack possible.
Oh man, a lot of drones not mining. Well, yeah, that's in the past now, but I do feel like a rinse and repeat here from DRG should be able to close this out. Am I wrong?
Well, he's going for Mutalisks instead, so it's not going to be him just mustering another large army to go and try and shell down that third base. Instead, it seems like this is probably going to be a 1-2 punch where the Mutas go for harassment in the main and the natural. I would expect try and force the Stalkers out of position, force some cannons and batteries to defend those positions, and then maybe a follow-up attack from DRG on the front. But we'll see exactly what he decides to do. Of course, that's only one option. Really, he has a lot of different opportunities at his disposal right now. This is a fantastic position for Zerg to be in.
The Warp Prism's going to try to come up and, just see, can I do anything? Is there anything I can get done over here? But it's just going to be a matter of time before the next attack is inbound here. Those Mutas are now out on the map, and this could fish a lot of the Stalkers away. We do have Disruptors being produced for the time being. You can see there's really no defense over here for these workers, so the Mutas can really go to town on these guys.
Yeah, and DRG is cutting drones back at home too, so he's forcing a response from these Stalkers. I would not be surprised to see Astrea spend the next couple hundred of minerals on some static defense, but maybe he's just going to try and toe the line with these Blink Stalkers, holding off any Muta harassment. As the Muta count, it's not too high. That Warp Prism scouting more Ravagers morphing in is a pretty good catch for Astrea, but unfortunately he will be losing this Prism.
Yeah, the walls are closing in right now for Astrea. Another attack is about to be mounted. I mean, it's nearly maxed out. A lot of Ravagers being made. I think the Mutas might try to fly right back into the main. I don't know if cannons are actually made over there.
No, Astrea, I think it's actually quite smart how he's delaying this, because he knows that he needs all of these minerals to try and defend the push that's coming. Instead, it's a ball of Stalkers in the main, but all eyes right now on this push. First Disruptor shot coming in. Pretty good, gets 2 Ravagers. Second one, follow-up, good as well, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, and I mean, the Disruptor just disappears. Just like before, the Stalkers trapped in the same area, only this time there's way more Zerg. And I mean, this Nexus is going to fall again. There's no way else to cut it.
I mean, the reinforcements coming in from the main base means the Mutalisks are cleaning up probes in the main.
Oh my God, that was an insane shot.
Great shot, but
yeah,
the economy.
I mean, it's brutal. Even ByuN's now connecting on that. Meanwhile, 20 probes have been killed here. So we're at about 35 workers, and that number is going to get even lower here for the Protoss.
Yeah, it's going to be a less than 2 base economy, and DRG against 3 Stalkers is just happy to trade out a couple of Mutas to fully clear that mineral line. And so Astrea really has no economy at this point. Yes, he can credit boost probes out 3 at a time, but losing 36 probes, there's no way he's going to hold this next push.
This whole game has just been a beatdown. Look at that. Roach is trapped in there.
Like a force
prison
field
of his own peers. He'll never be a Ravager. He'll always be a Roach.
Well, Astrea's going to try and get something done here in the middle of the map, but I think at this point, you really have to just start digesting this loss and try and come up with a game plan to bounce back in game number 2, because this was not the opening he was going for. DRG's going to take game number 1, but Astrea, I like him gambling a little bit, going for the Glaive Adepts, but this was truly the worst case scenario. Attacking into a drone that's a Zerg that's cut at 50 drones, going for a Roachling Queen push.
It's a bad build order interaction, and there's no way for him to know what the build that was coming out from DRG was, but you're completely right. A kind of early pressure build intended to kill some workers and maybe cut the Zerg down. Instead, interacts with a full-on Roach Ravager assault where everything gets mowed down, and it makes the actual attack that DRG had planned even easier.
That played into his hand. So Astrea, I mean, the opening, it wasn't too bad for him. I like the way he started off, gambling a little bit with the Glaives, but now here on Oceanborn, the question is, do you go for another gambling play? Do you take a risk? Do you potentially go Nexus first? Or do you just try to play a straight-up macro game? Because DRG, he is certainly capable of some aggressive builds. It's a tough position for Astrea to play from. He has to win these next 2 maps where he is out of Code S.
It's looking very dire right now for Astrea. Let's see if he can recover or if DRG is going to go up and play against ByuN.
Match4 Esports, Astrea. Club NV, DRG.
Okay, well, we've got that probe out once more. Going across the map. And you can already see for support from New York City. Excellent. Welcome.
Power for Astrea.
Give him all your power, please.
I would love to see a foreign player make it onto the round of 8. It's been a long time, I think.
We've had Scarlet, we've had Special, we've had Astrea, all be regulars of the GSL, but you know, a lot of times they die out pretty early on. You know, we've had different sizes of GSL, right? Like round of 24s or round of 32s, but they tend to not get that deep. So I'm always very eager every GSL we have to see, okay, is this going to be the moment that we might actually see, you know, a deep run? But right now, I mean, I'm trying to keep the dream alive, but man, Astrea is in rough shape.
Yeah, Astrea scouting now, sees that timing on the extractor, should know that Zergling speed, but the earliest it can finish up is around 330, 332. Should DRG saturate that quickly? Now, that kind of timing, it could lend itself to early aggression coming out from DRG. It could also just be a really safe play. It could be something like going for a Ling Flood on the 3rd base as Protoss tries to set up the expansion. There's a lot of potential options here for Zerg. Now, it's not the most economic opening here, but Astrea, after coming in with that scout, has to keep these things on his radar because you never know exactly what Zerg is going to throw your way, especially in a situation like this one where DRG really just needs 1 map win to go up into that final match.
It did seem like in game 1 it was a bad build order to choose against DRG. DRG has shown that he's very much interested in ending games at specific points in different matchups and not playing that kind of, I guess you could say, the passive reactive style that that Dark is so good at, where Dark is basically watching you and either cutting workers to be safe and making more, or squeezing out more workers to get further ahead, and kind of doing that pattern over and over again until he's just in a position where he can't be killed.
Another Stargate opening coming out from Astrea. This Adept going to shade in. There are 6 Lings on the field, and this Adept doesn't have too much time to play with, so Astrea is going to try and get as much scouting information as he can and then retreat, ideally before Zergling's speed is done. And so far when he's scouting, it seems pretty normal from the Zerg. You know, we just have a handful of Lings there in the main base. There are probably some at the 3rd base just in case the Adept decides to shade that way. Everything looking fairly normal, and then Astrea, of course, a very smart player, just moving back with the Adept at the exactly right timing.
Yeah, and we don't know what the big difference in this game is going to be from game 1 here from Astrea. Whatever the Zerg wants to do will reveal itself a little bit later on, but it looks like he's going to set up for a 3rd base. Astrea's, I feel like in the games we cast of him, much less inclined to do something crazy like we see from Creator. Oh, well, that's one strategy. So this is, how long has the show gone on for? That was 15 years. I've never seen that. That was, I'm like, well, guys, that's it. You can all go home now. The show's over. Oh, never mind. We're back in the game. Okay.
That is not nearly as disastrous as I thought
That's
it would be.
how I always imagined StarCraft 2 esports would end, would just be abruptly like that with a blank screen. Go,
Microsoft Clippy comes on.
Yeah.
Microsoft Clippy comes on screen. It's like, are you ready for a Windows update?
Yeah. It seems like you're trying to take a 3rd base. Do you need help with that? No. No, Clippy.
Oh. Yeah. All right. Well, we are continuing right where we left off. Oracle comes into the 3rd base. Spore Crawler, no Queen, but Astrea doesn't want to take it too risky there. Just picks off 2 drones and then retreats. There is a 2nd Oracle that was scattered around the natural expansion, trying to find the opening. Astrea behind this, going for Blink from the Twilight Council, so not a Glaive's timing. 2 more gateways. Stalkers being warped in at home, so a very straightforward setup in terms of macro play, and DRG just now starting that lair and Overlord speed is, I feel like an auctioneer trying to catch everybody up
Yeah.
once we get back into the game, but it looks to be a fairly standard PvZ opening thus far. Neither player really ahead or behind.
So, I think this is looking better right now for Astrea because it's a more passive game overall. He's just getting some Blink Stalkers and kind of focusing on development. Back here on DRG's side of things, he is starting to make a lot of roaches.
Yeah, he's cut drones once again at 49, so.
Now, are we going to just see continuous Stalkers made and that kind of style that Hero made so cool? The roaming Stalkers and Oracles, and you just sort of eke out damage over time until eventually the lead is insurmountable.
I don't think we're going to see quite that style. Astrea right now, I believe he's only on 4 gateways with the screen minimized for a moment. I'm not sure exactly what the setup is, but I do think it is only 4 gateways, and so he's going to be investing a lot of resources into building up other parts of his infrastructure. I see he's getting a Forge now, so he's playing for +1 ground weapons.
Oh, it's the same Queen drop.
Oh, it is the same Queen drop, you're right.
It's even the same 4 Queens from the other game. Oh my God, they're back from the dead. They want revenge. You never dropped us from the Overlord.
Yeah, this is dangerous. There's only 1 battery right now at the 3rd base. I feel like Astrea is scouting this a little bit too late.
Oh,
we'll see if he can get the same snipe on the Overlord.
The Stalkers were fractured from each other. Gonna drop them. Drop them. Not the creep.
Okay,
there we
finally.
go. Come on, man. It's like a constipated Overlord. All right, we got it out.
Well, the overcharge came in on the battery, but it instantly got taken out. And once again, Astrea is going to have to try and forfeit this 3rd base, blinking back into the natural expansion behind this wall. And he is cleaning up a fair bit of the Zerg's army, but I'm concerned for this position. With 26 more Lings in production, more units getting rallied across the map. Again, there are still only 4 gateways. I love that Astrea right now is building shield batteries in the main base above the 3rd. That's a really smart play from Astrea to try and get out any kind of defensive opportunity here. But with these reinforcements coming in from DRG, is it going to be enough?
Yeah, the Stalkers are over time whittling this down. It's starting to be just Queens, but then a couple more Links come in, and that sort of accelerates the blinking back, which means the Nexus, it's in the orange, now the red, and it looks like, no, wait, he like misclicked.
All right, finally DRG is going to be able to clean that up. Some drones in production back at home for DRG, but it feels like Astrea is held.
Yeah, also there were Queens that were just kind of beelined across the map, of course, in slow motion.
No, not another Queen dying at an Overlord.
Not again.
Well, you know what? Taking a 4th base like this for Astrea is actually really good. This is another full minute that he's going to be able to mine. He's cleaning up the last Ravager. The Oracles are coming in. DRG's bleeding out a lot of units kind of unnecessarily here, and I feel like I'm liking Astrea's position. Yeah, DRG's going to call it. All right, Astrea gets his first map win in GSL Code S. That's got to be a monkey off his back, and now he is 1 more map win away from going to the final match here in Group C. Love to see that. That was a really stellar hold. You know, that seemed like he was up against the ropes for a long time, but fantastic control with the Blink Stalkers. I love the shield batteries in the main base above the 3rd, just really anchoring that position.
I want to know what the 3rd Queen drop is going to look like.
Yeah, I
want to see the same game again.
I saw the drone cut at 50, and I saw the Roaches and the Lings in production. And I was like, oh, this looks really similar to the last game, but I didn't catch the Overlord speed and the drop Overlord coming through. So it's the exact same build. It was literally a 1 drone difference.
It's funny. It seems like it wouldn't make sense to get the 4th Nexus like up at 12 o'clock if you're being rushed, right? But actually, just the nature of Blink and being able to pull away over and over, and the damage begins to stack over time, actually that makes it impossible in that case for the Zerg to kill both Nexuses, or at least it makes it harder. And so in that moment, the swing back was just too strong from Astrea.
I mean, if that was the only base that Astrea had up, the 3rd, he didn't take the 4th. Imagine he cancels it during that push.
Yeah.
Then suddenly DRG's attack, although it didn't get everything accomplished that he intended to, at least Astrea is on like a 2.5 base economy effectively, because the main base is starting to mine out for what's going to be another minute or so. And that's going to really slow down the Protoss machine, give DRG an opportunity to potentially come back into the game. But that 4th Nexus is kind of unintuitive as it is to take a 4th expansion at that stage in the game, is really what propelled Astrea to victory, because DRG knew that he was never going to be able to regain the tempo. He did not get enough damage done, and he bled out so many units trying to kill that 3rd Nexus that Astrea would just be able to get incredible value out of the 2 Oracles and the Blinkstalkers on the ground. So really an immaculate defense. I love that from Astrea.
A little bit odd to see DRG go for that same build again.
Yeah.
Maybe showing how confident he really was back there. I'm, of course, joking when I say, like, how is the 3rd Queen drop going to go? But in some ways, it came down to the DRG overextension as much as it was the Astrea defense. Astrea, so far, everything he's trying to do hasn't quite worked. But DRG, he bled out like 3 or 4 extra queens in that. There was a period where he thought, okay, this is going to be a timing attack, and then he said, no, this is an all-in. I'm sending my queens over here, and we're going to topple this. And now we're going to go onto our final map here, at least for these two. Remember, ByuN awaits the winner of this match. The loser, out of the GSL.
Match4 Esports, Astrea. Club NV, DRG.
Well, it would not be an Astrea game without that probe going across the map to force the hatchery to be at the 3rd base location.
Feels like it wouldn't be a PBZ without that happening at this point. It's so common. That was one of the frustrating things for me when the new map pool got announced. It's like, yeah, I'm excited there's 9 maps. Yes, this is very good. But now I have to find out when to send the probe on every single one, because on some maps, you go for a 14 pylon and you can send the probe and you block it at 46. On some, you can do a 13 pylon and block it at 46. On some, you got to send it instantly. And then on Raduset Station, if you spawn on the top, you can block it at 46. If you spawn on the bottom, you can't. With an Insta-Scout, it's just like, it's too much information, man.
It's one of those funny things, too, because if the pros don't iron all that out early on, we will have one of these moments where things just go really badly at the start of the game because they don't have all those little nuances down. And, yeah, every map is different. Every map requires, these different approaches. And knowing all these little circumstantial things that you have to be ready for here.
Yeah, we kind of take it for granted just observing the pylon or the probe coming down into the natural expansion to block the hatchery in the majority of PvZ games, but there's a lot of trial and error and a lot of hours spent in customs versus AIs trying to make sure that you have that completely ironed out from the Protoss side of things. But Astrea, of course, one of the best in the business.
So are we going to have Astrea, just try to flow into a 3rd base? Probably.
I think you just play standard here, Odd Hackety. I don't think Astrea should really be gambling too much. In fact, the fact that he didn't go for a Nexus first in this series at all makes me think that he's going to try and play for more of a standard game. And actually a really fast... Oh! It's a 1-gas Robo!
Yeah.
This is a farmy build if I've ever seen one. Into the farmy is a Protoss player on the Korean ladder who's been doing Robo all-ins in basically every matchup for like 5 years plus, it feels like. And he's so good at it. I love this opening from Astrea. What a way to mix it up. So throw what I said out of the window. He is not going for a macro play, but this opening at the front of his gate, at the front of his door, it should look very much like a Stargate opening. Notice in Game 1 and Game 2, with that Stargate opening, he went into an Adept and then into a Stalker. In the 3rd game, the timings are the exact same. So from the Zerg perspective, this could very easily be a Stargate. That might be what DRG is thinking here in this match, but actually behind it, there's a Warp Prism being made in production. And following up from that, we're going to have 1 Immortal. I'm imagining 7 Gateways and a completely all-in push.
Yeah, it's a total caveman move, and I love it.
It's so good. And Astrea, as part of the best of 3, this shows some real experience.
Well, this shows a lot of range, right? I was just saying, well, he's probably going to flow into the 3rd base, right? He's been very good at developmental PvZ.
He's even pulled off the gas.
Yeah. Oh, who needs gas, man?
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Setting the probe over here to the 3rd base.
This is all for looks. He's like, look at me, I want to take a 3rd base. Oh no, my 3 base play.
I love it.
Oh, now I've already lost the game. 9.
That was the most genuine, generally like evil laugh that I've ever heard from you.
Fool.
Yeah, 5 more gateways in production. It's just going to be this one Immortal and a ton of Zealots. All right, when is DRG going to see this? I think that Overlord at the third base, the triangle third, just barely missed it. There's no more Overlords on the path.
Yeah, the Lings got up there. They confirmed that there's nothing up there. Now, this is a rush that the damage has to hit just right. It's not going to be as easy to reinforce, so we really want to watch that Immortal.
Yeah, Baneling's Nest is underway. A lot of Queens already on the field and many more in production, so DRG has a nice response to this already. 39 drones might be a little bit high. He is starting +1 melee attack. I'm a little bit surprised he's investing resources into that because this is a very dangerous push coming in, Tasteless.
All right, he's moving in. He's doing a little bit of body blocking here with the Spore. A little bit of time buying. The Lings are going to wrap all the way around. The Queens are doing a lot of damage. The Warp Prism has to stay alive, by the way.
Yeah, the Warp Prism, you can't be doing any really fancy micro with the Warp Prism in this build. You got to keep it back. It has to stay alive for these Warpins, and now the Zealots really coming in. It's just Lings right now for DRG. Only 3 Banelings morphing. Warp Prism moving a little bit more forward. The Zealots trying to find some surface area, but the Lings actually get a full surround on the Immortal and the 2 Stalkers.
I just don't think there's enough. Another round of Zealots are warped in, but Banelings know what to do there.
Oh, he canceled it. He canceled the warp in.
Oh, that was crazy.
I like that play there from Astrea, but this push, it's all about tempo.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You need to have a couple more warping rounds come in. He could kill these Banes before they actually finish. The Lings are going to body block, though. The Immortal is so low. I think this game is done.
Yeah, the surround on the Immortal just out of range. Pro production is resumed here for Astrea as DRG just had the perfect response. So Astrea, he's going to try and find a way to work out of this one, but DRG with some really good control, just able to shut this down.
That was, that's too bad. It's a very wonky rush, but you could see DRG knew what to do. Even with the Spore, like buying time, just a couple of extra seconds and you're probably going to be okay. There's an Overlord now moving up into the main just to see, like, okay, is the tech exactly where I think it is? Yes. As in, you know, he has not teched out of this at all.
DRG even had the confidence to not cancel melee attack during all that.
That was really impressive. I thought you were spot on when you said, well, it's probably better to just, you know, cancel that. And then
he could have gotten 4 more Banelings, but instead he's just full on committing.
It's like, or I could have made the longer part of the game the easier part.
True, yeah.
Man, this guy knows how to invest in the future. More units fall on the map. The Warp Prism, I mean, it's just being met with more and more Queens. And now even these Adepts, you know, they can't do anything here. So they're going to be killed off.
Yeah, a couple of drones, but...
You know, I was joking earlier about the possibility of, you know, this game looking similar. I think it might end in a similar fashion of just, you know, DRG plowing through and closing this out.
Yeah, DRG just full sending it right now, I think is a really smart play. He hasn't made, I think he's made maybe 1 drone since that push. Instead, he's just going to full commit to the Baneling bus with +1 attack. These Zealots should get cleaned up by the Banelings. Actually, one of them able to survive, so he's going to help with the defense a little bit here. Astrea, if he wants to win this game, I love the overcharge, by the way, on the cybernetics core.
It's actually kind of funny. He basically has these Zealots like as body blockers for the pylons so that it can't be unpowered. And
you know, wait a moment. DRG, he doesn't actually have enough gas to double down on the Baneling bus, so he's going to go up to layer tech back at home.
So this game's probably going to go on.
Yeah, he's making roaches. He made a couple more he made another round of drones, so... Man, that one Zealot staying alive against those Banelings, busting down the middle, it might have actually just saved the game here for Astrea. It was so close.
Well, you know, maybe the counterattack got a little bit too ambitious. He does need to destroy this pylon to get the rest of his army out. Obviously, there's a backup pylon over there. And so, you know, what kind of game will this be when he's able to be out on the map? Protoss needs a third base. You need a third base or you need to have, like, another attack coming up here. Both are pretty hard to pull off. Anything you do on 2 bases when it backfires, it's so punishing. So he sees the Nexus is coming there. A lot more Lings, Ravagers this time. And I think he just is going to force a cancel, right?
I don't think there's a way Astrea can hold on to that third base. Not with DRG's economy is kind of bare bones as it is. He's committing so much to this attack. Now, Astrea, he is working on getting +1 ground weapons. He's researching charge. He's starting to bank a little bit of gas for that Templar Archive so he can warp in some Archons, which should do great against the heavy Ling composition, but there's already 100 Lings on the map.
Yeah, DRG just looks at that and goes, well, you don't have a third base still. Oh my god, it gets away.
7 HP.
Crazy.
Banelink speed and Roach speed both coming in now for DRG. I gotta say, the way that DRG's macroing out of this is so clever. I mean, he's just in a commanding position, so he's making these huge rounds of units like these Lings, Banelings, Roaches, and Ravagers, making sure that Astrea can't take a third base, and then he goes heavily back into the drones. Just kind of oscillating between both macro economically and macro in terms of army, and
oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and this leaves a lot of units on the outside.
Immortal especially.
And he can actually spill through because, you know, the Warpin, he's actually going to bust it down once more. The Warpin unlocks the entrance. The Cybernetics core is going to go down, so no more Stalkers or Sentries.
That's the last force field.
Yeah.
And by the way, no Archons morphing in. Instead, Astrea is in fact going for Storm with this. He has 3 Templar alive right now. You can see that main base already halfway mined out.
Good surrounds here on these Adepts, just not making a dent over here. Psystorm's going to finish.
I gotta give credit to Astrea, by the way. I mean, this is looking like a very bad position, but it is near impossible to transition out of a no-gas all-in like this one.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very, very desperate build. And once you stop it, it's very hard to get anywhere in the game. Another probe goes down. No third base yet here for Astrea.
The army for DRG is almost pure Ling, by the way. We have about 80 Lings in total on the field. Storm is done. The Roaches and Ravager count, it's quite low. You can see DRG starting to pump out more Roaches now that he sees the Storm tech coming through. But Astrea's army, I mean, I'm not gonna say that he's in a fantastic position, but given the hand that he's been dealt, I think his army is about the best you could possibly hope for against what DRG has.
Yeah, I mean, he's putting up a really good fight.
Okay, that Warp Prism just barely out of range from these Queens. Third base. Astrea is really struggling to get it online.
And eventually, if this third base doesn't finish warping in, the game will end. Astrea will just run out of money. Oh my god.
Barely blocking those Lings, getting the full surround. And now DRG is going to try and come in on both sides. Lings attacking the right side. No Templar there for Storm. Astrea focusing most of his energy right now on the left side of the map. Big storms on the Banelings or on the Lings, and also on the Roaches and Ravagers. That's a ton of damage coming through, actually.
It looks like some of the army is able to wiggle out, and now these Archons are morphing. 2 Immortals stay alive.
What an insane engagement for Astrea. Astrea was down so much army supply, and now DRG actually bleeding out these Roaches and Ravagers. He thought he sent everything home, and look at the supplies. Astrea was almost doubled in terms of total supply, and somehow with that hold, he gets 4 of the most clutch possible storms. 2 on the Roaches and Ravagers, 2 on the Lings.
This is crazy.
He might be able to try and macro out of this. Now, the follow-up attack is coming from DRG.
I don't know how many more storms he's got pocketed. There's a lot more Ravagers. There's a lot more Banes coming up here.
+2 ground weapons almost done. 4 Templars still on the field. I'm very curious about how much energy they have. But the ground army, it's very sparse here for Astrea. What you see on the field right now, that's what you get. The control basically has to be perfect, and I don't think there's a sentry here. So no force fields.
Yeah, he baits out 1 storm. Again, a lot of Ravagers available right now.
Oh
the
my
Zealots are going to
goodness.
come down onto this hatchery. I think there's enough Lings and Roaches that he can probably clean this up.
He will, but this is buying Astrea time.
Yep.
DRG brought everything back. I mean, those are +2 Zealots, so they're just going to absolutely chop through these Lings. And now DRG kind of like doing the greedy thing and sectioning off some Banelings and trying to send them into the mineral line. The third, no, Astrea's just going to park his army right there. Banelings are not going to get in, and I can't believe this game is continuing on. Astrea is putting up such a good fight.
It's insane, man. It looked like it was so done earlier.
It was so done.
By the way, this Warp Prism has gotten so much value. It's basically keeping that third base alive for long enough. Now, DRG is trying to carve open a larger entrance point here so we can really get in and not be so punished by storms. We got a lot of Banes being made here. The 4 Zealots, actually 3 are going to come down onto the gold base. There's a 4th one that's fractioned off and is going to go down to the other base down here at the bottom.
And Astrea, he's taking the 4th expansion. I'm liking this setup for him more and more. He has 7 Templar right now, high on energy. It is hard to attack into this position, but DRG is just setting up for this Banelings. Oh, Storm's coming through, really tearing through those Banelings, and he has more where that came from.
He's got a really healthy army here, Astrea does. He's going to try to come back and chase this out. Good block there on the entrance.
DRG has made so many plays with Banelings to try and connect with probes in the third base and the natural. He's gone for it maybe 3 or 4 separate times. He hasn't been able to connect even once, I think. So Astrea, his defense has been immaculate. And now look at the army supply, 75 to 108. Let's not forget that Astrea had 7 Templars, now 9 Templars on the field. And some of those Templars, even after that last engagement, very high in energy. I see multiple Templars with 2 Storms each on him right now. So Astrea, will he be able to continue to hang on? It feels like this is a bit of a misread.
Yeah, well, this is the problem when you take that fourth base that far out. Looks like he's able to kill that. He's also able to open up the entrance, which allows for counterattacks later on. You know, DRG was so close to actually winning the game, but it's a funny situation where you can maybe be a little bit too cavalier about your advantage, and then, you know, a player as tenacious as Astrea can just hang on. And then as the game gets on, you go, wait a minute, he's getting a 3rd base up, he's getting a 4th base up. I was supposed to win this a while ago.
I mean, after the all-in, DRG basically just said, I'm gonna kill you, with a Ling Baneling counterattack, and it did not work, and Astrea was able to macro out of it. Now, I don't know if Astrea is going to try and take that 4th base again. He might just hard commit with the army he's got. But I feel like the army Astrea has, it's very good at defending. It's not quite as good at attacking into a position like this one. Those Vials coming in, getting some damage done on Templar, but the Storms are huge, Tasteless.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the first moment that Astrea could try to break out on the map, and the counterattack just blows up in his face. And speaking of which, the Link counterattack here from DRG is just doing far too well. Banelings connecting on Immortals, not usually okay, but in a game like this, it seems like it's going to be one of the few final moments here for Astrea. He's lost control of his 4th. He does have, his 3rd actually. He's going to push even further forward here. I think we may just see Astrea tap out.
Yeah, I mean, the counterattack just wasn't it. Astrea's army, although it can defend off creep back at home with batteries, cannot move out. DRG is going to advance to face ByuN in the final match of Group C, but man, Astrea putting on a show after a failed all-in. He almost was able to claw his way back into that one. And if you're watching at home and you were ever doubting Astrea when he comes into GSLs like this one, keep that game in your memory, because the tenacity that he showed, how well he was able to force a long macro game. You can even see DRG, he's not super happy with that game.
Well, no, it's a concerning game. He even shaking his head there for a second. He's like, whoa, that was close.
He almost lost. That was a dangerous position that Astrea was able to fight his way into.
I don't know about you, but I think a lot of us watching that were kind of over that game after the Immortal got killed. In the initial push, you're like, oh, yeah, that's too bad. And then we're like, oh, he's going to try to play this out. Okay. And then he hangs on for that long. Anyways, guys, the final match, DRG versus ByuN, is coming up after this short break. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.